welcome everybody. It's Chris, and thanks for coming by. We're going to do some techniques here today, just do a couple brush ups on things. I tend to mention a lot of these things when I'm doing my videos, but sometimes it's just good to kind of separate it and just do maybe like a quick video on some ideas of techniques with the brush and washes and things like that. So we'll just do like a real simple review of just getting some really good light washes on, some dark washes. We'll do swatches here on the paper, and we'll see how it goes. But the main thing is we just want to start out. We have our Extreme Beginners palette, which is the Prang palette. I always try to mention that because it's a really nice paint set, and it's inexpensive, so we don't have to spend a fortune when we go out and start our watercolor painting. We can start out with really, inexpensive materials and supplies. It's a Prang Oval 16. You can find this online on the internet. Probably quite a few of the art supply stores have them in stock usually. And we spritz it with a little bit of water. They're semi-moist paints, so you just give them a little spritz of water, or even sprinkle some water on with a brush. So sometimes if my spritzer bottle's not handy, I'll just grab a paintbrush and just kind of splash a little bit of water on each of the wells where the paints are, and it's usually good to get it kind of moist and started. And then we'll kind of start out. Let's try mixing a light wash, and you can find these online too. These are stencils. I'll just use one here for maybe our first swatch. It's quick and easy, and then we have a nice swatch there. And let's mix up we'll use our flat brush here. This is the Princeton Art and Brush Company. You can buy like a package of 5 brushes, and there's a couple flat brushes in there. And then there's also a round brush with a nice point too. So you can get like a pack of 5 brushes or so, maybe only, $8 or $10 at most probably. And that's a really good bargain too, and they're synthetic, which is perfect when you're starting out in watercolor. It's better if you have synthetic brushes, I feel, because they hold less water, the synthetic hair brushes. So you'll have less chance of too much water flooding onto your paper, and kind of helps a little bit in that quest to have a little bit more of a keeping tabs on how much water's on our brush. So I always recommend too, you can have a small sponge next to your water bucket, and I have a water pail with some fresh clean water. So always start out with fresh clean water. Change your water frequently. I think that's the best bet. Some artists also use 2 buckets. They have 1 bucket for cleaner water, and then they use a second bucket for like cleaning off the brush when they first are done. When they're done doing a wash, they'll use like a bucket with more of the dirty, muddy looking water. They'll clean the brush off there first, then they'll come into this one, do a second cleaning, and they'll also use this for their washes when they start out a new wash on the paper. So 2 buckets can work if you think that might help to keep your water fresher and cleaner, but for me, I just use 1 bucket and I change it all the time. I have a secondary bucket in the studio here next to me, and I just pour the muddy looking water. Once it gets a little muddy, I pour it into the bucket, and I just pour some new fresh water in there, and it's good to go. So we have our water, clear, clean water. You can take some water off your brush when you dip it into the water pail and you tap it on a sponge. You can also use a tissue or a paper towel. If you have an apron, if you wear an apron when you paint, you can just wipe it on your apron quick a couple times to get some of the water off. You always don't want a ton of water on your brush. It depends. We'll talk about that in just a second. And the reason why is if you're going to do a light wash, let's say we're going to do a sky wash, and then for a sky wash, you can use extra water, so you don't have to worry too much about drying off the brush. And then you can kind of see how we can mix some different blues here to get a really nice sky wash. We can even add a little purple up here, maybe even a little bit of brown up here to get a little bit of a muddy tone down that blue just a little bit. Let's pick up some of that and mix it in. But that's a really good sky color there. So this would be a sky wash. You can see lots of water, and it looks light. You can see through it. It's transparent, so that's a good knowing that this is a sky wash. One, you're going to have that, like I said, that fresh, clean water. You want to have fresh, crystal clear water to get your sky wash. And then you can add extra water into there because it's a sky wash. It's going to be light. And then you can do a sky wash inside your swatch like this with your flat brush maybe, you know. And then usually what we do is we like to make the top of the sky a little darker. That gives you a little more feeling of three-dimensional quality to the sky. Because usually when you look at a sky, when it's directly up overhead, when you're standing and looking at a sky and maybe looking over a field or a scene, a cityscape, whatever it is, you'll tend to see that it looks a little bit darker up top like that. So we get that little bit of a light, darker wash up top. And then as we go down the page, we just lighten it up a little bit with just using a damp brush, no paint at all. And that's how we can get that really light sky wash. And rinse off my brush one more time, maybe take a little bit of water off at this point. And we can do that. Then we can also use our tissue and blot up a little bit of paint. If you want to lighten it up, if you feel you went too dark, you can do that. You can add in a little bit of paint to any of the spots you might have missed when you were. You can leave a couple spots of dark, white paper if you like. You could take some more darker paint, mix up more paint into your pan, and then add a little bit of a darker. Maybe add some brown to that too, and maybe go up here and just do a couple more dabs up here like that. And then you can rinse off your brush one more time, tap on a sponge or tap on a tissue like this. All you need now is a damp brush. That's all. A damp brush now, and you just kind of flow this on down. And then for our swatch sake, let's add a little green. We'll pretend we have a field. So we'll use some green here. We'll use some green and some orange. And some yellow. Just a little bit of a green, yellow, and orange. And then we can just make a little bit of like a hill with some grass. And that kind of just helps us to sense that this is like a landscape painting of some sort with a field or some hills and a beautiful sky here. So that's just a simple idea of a sky, how you would do that. And then you can just imagine, if you're working on a really large sheet of paper, all you're really doing is you're just going to have to use a larger brush and more water and paint. And in some cases, if you're using if you're doing like an 18 by 24 painting, like a really, really good size painting, you might have to even up your palette size. So you might have to invest in another palette. Doesn't have to be expensive, but maybe something larger that you can mix more larger washes. Because if you try tackling a really large painting like an 18 by 24 or a 24 by 36, this won't be enough palette space. You'd need a way larger brush, something like this. You'd need a brush this size, and you'd need a large you can make your own palette even too. There's ways. There's kind of like trays that I get when I eat. Sometimes I use those as palettes from the takeout places. I use those and I use them once in a while if I can't find a palette around the studio. I'll use one of those too. So you can be creative. Be creative with making a larger palette if you're going to use a larger, if you're going to create a larger painting. But we're just doing small swatches here, so we don't need to upsize anything. But that's really the key to painting larger. If you're going to do larger paintings, is you're just going to be upsizing everything. You can use this same paint set. You would just have to have a little larger tray to mix your colors in, and then you can get everything done quickly because we wouldn't want to have to keep mixing, paint, mix, paint. You always want to try. Your goal is, if you're going to be doing a larger painting, it would just be that you're going to mix up all your paints ahead of time, like we always do on my channel. You'll always see me do that. I mix all my colors first in the palette, and then we work. And this way you don't have to worry about mixing. You kind of have all your colors pretty much laid out on your palette. So that's a key thing to remember. But let's have some more fun here. Let's do another swatch. This one's just about dry now, so that's okay. This one I'm just going to draw freehand. And maybe we'll do something a little darker. Maybe we'll do... We'll do another swatch. So I'll just do... We'll do a swatch like that. And then maybe we'll do maybe a small like cabin or something like this. So we're going to do like a small cabin maybe, and we'll do some darks on this. So so I just did a quick like cabin, you know, or house here, and chimney up top, and we could just leave it simple, just so we can kind of practice up on our washes. So we're going to do some darker darks now. We did these lighter lights here first. Let's use a paper towel now. We're going to clean up our palette. I just dipped the paper towel in the water container, and then we'll clean up the palette. It's good to keep the palette clean too, so we can mix our new colors now. We don't have to worry about things getting too muddy with colors. We want to keep the colors a little fresher looking. And this one here, we're going to do the glazing technique. We'll do a first wash on this and let it dry, and then we'll paint in the darker darks. So let's kind of do the same thing we did here. Let's take our nice blue, two blues there, like that. Then maybe a little bit of brown up here with some of the blue, just for a darker bit of blue. And a little bit of purple maybe. Okay, I'll dry off my brush a little bit. Okay, so that's some good blue for sky wash. Again, we're doing the light sky wash. And then maybe we're going to do the same as this swatch. So we're just going to get our blue, start up top here, and just, you know, get some color going there. Just put it on any old way. We'll keep it within the boundaries of the pencil lines. Then we get some of that darker dark, and we'll just go up here and get some of the, mix a little bit of that darker blue there. And once we do that, and then we're fine. Now we can rinse off our brush and dry off the brush a little bit, so that we just have like a damp brush here. So we rinse the brush off and then just leave it a damp brush. No need to go back into the paint right now, because you're just going to kind of bring down the, in this here we can do, this light wash can go over the whole page, the whole rectangle, or the whole swatch, like that. And that's it. That's our first wash, our first glazing. And you can kind of see we did the same thing. We just mixed up a nice, good-looking, you know, medium to light blue sky. Not too much paint. Plenty of water. Like that. And then we're going to let this dry. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back once this dries. It usually takes about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe a little longer. You can speed the process up by using a hair dryer. I use a hair dryer all the time when I'm working. So, but I will take a break now and get a drink of some coffee. I'm going to get a nice cup of coffee down in the kitchen, and I'll be right back up, and we will continue with our beautiful swatch here of maybe it's a cabin of some sort in the hills, in the mountains. Maybe it's just in a field. Beautiful country scene. That's about it. So let's let that dry, and it's critical to let that dry now. We did the first wash, and then we let it go until it dries 100%, and then we'll come back and we'll do the rest of the washes, and we'll do some darks, and you can kind of see how we're going to create our darks in our palette, and how much, you know, how much water we're going to use, how much paint, and what other techniques we might use to get better darks when we're creating this type of a scene. Okay, so we'll be right back. Hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second too as well, but I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register, or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not geared up for that right now. So they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource, and beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. Okay, so we're going to finish up this quick swatch here. And again, we're covering, I just mentioned, before I think we just took a break, I was just mentioning how doing darks is a lot of fun, but it's a little different. So when you're in a painting and you're creating darks, you definitely want to have the knowledge of how are you going to do your darks and how you're going to mix your colors, how much water are you going to use, how much paint, when are you going to add them to your painting. Like we mentioned here, since we did the whole swatch here with a complete glazing over the top, we have to let that dry 100%. Then we can go over and do our darks on top of that. So you can see this is the glazing technique. Cover the whole page first, your whole canvas, your whole paper first. Then we let this dry 100%. Then we can go back in and add our secondary washes and complete the painting. So a lot of fun. We're always doing techniques on my channel. We cover all the techniques and methods you need for watercolor when we're doing our videos, on an ongoing basis whenever we're working. But it's always fun to kind of do a video once in a while just to key in on a few things that's really going to help your painting techniques as you work. And so, and I always mention if you're brand new here and this is your first time watching my videos, thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And we're here every week. We're creating watercolors every week, week after week, month after month, and year after year. And just so you don't lose us, if you click the subscribe button on the right-hand side below here, right below the screen, that'll just alert you that we're making new videos next week and the week after, and you'll just get that alert on your YouTube homepage when you open up YouTube. So it just really alerts you that we've made another video, and you can check it out. And you won't lose us, because sometimes I know in the past, even myself, I've liked a video I've watched and then I can't find it again. I can't find the person that made it or So subscribe also kind of make sure that you're not going to lose me as far as if you can't find me again, if you come back 2 weeks later and you forgot my name or whatever it is. So this just helps, if you click the subscribe button, you'll be good. You'll have me saved in your homepage on YouTube. And that's all it really does, is just kind of it saves my YouTube channel on your channel. Okay, so we're going to do some darks, and we're going to kind of just take a quick look here and say, okay, this is going to be like a cool cabin or something. Where's the light going to be coming from? So that's where we might say, okay, you know what? Let's make the light coming from here. So I'll just put a little light, like a little spotlight, and I'll pretend the spotlight's coming from here, like that. And then that'll kind of give us where our darkest darks are going to be. So our darkest dark's probably going to be here. So let's do that. Let's make this a brownish and gold cabin. Some browns, some golds, some oranges. Make it a cool, and some blues too. And purples. We're gonna kind of mix it up and make some nice different colors here. Some green, some blue, some red too, and orange. So you can see I'm just going to mix up some really cool colors, some reds and oranges, some blues and greens, some purple, and some brown and yellow and orange. We'll get a good mixture of colors, and these especially right here are pretty intense and darker colors. So let's do that. Let's get some of those darker shadow colors over here on this side of the cabin. And we're just going to do that. And you just carefully, with a round brush, do the shadow side of the cabin here. And that's all. And then you can even add in a little bit of red here and there. Maybe a little bit of orange you can add in too, just to kind of maybe make it look a little interesting. Like that. So that's our darks. We took our greens and blues and some red and purple, and we got our darks over on this side of the cabin over here. And then we're going to make this a middle tone, the roof. Let's make the roof a middle tone. Let's go with we'll add a little bit of black here. Then maybe some of this purple and yellows and golds. And we'll use this as a middle. This is a middle tone now. The light's over here. So we put on like a middle tone like that. I rinse off my brush, and I've got clean water. So I'm going to rinse off and just use a damp brush to make this a little lighter. So I can take that first bit of wash I put on there and just kind of adjust it. Make it a little bit lighter. I didn't want to make it too dark. Like this. And that's a good roof color. And then let's make this siding over here orange and brown. So I'm just going to we're just going to make that an orange and brown sort of siding, some wood siding. This is a really cool cabin. Okay, you can cover the window with a little bit of color. You don't have to go all the way. You can put some, we're going to have a little bit of green for some grass. So I'm going to go with orange in the greens. And I'll put some of that orange and green in the window, maybe some of the blue too. So I'll put some grass colors and some blue sky color in the window. That's all you need to do. A little bit of green grass. Maybe there's a tree on the other side over here reflecting into the window. There's some sky colors reflecting in this window here. So we can do that. Makes it look more interesting. Then we'll get some more green over here, and we'll just do some grass. And again, these are fun swatches to do. I'll just use the greens again. A little bit of brown maybe. Like an olive green. There might be a shadow over here of the cabin, like that. Then maybe over here I'm going to do just a little bit of that brown for the door. And maybe over here there's some trim. And for the where the gable is of the roof, so there's some trim there. And we do some more grass, like that. We're just having fun. Let's do some chimney colors. So we could use orange and red over here. Well, you already made this color. Might as well add this and just make a chimney color with this. Like this. That looks pretty good. And then there's a little bit of a shadow on the chimney. So we'll put a little shadow there. Again, the light's coming from here and going this way. So we'll just put a shadow there. There's a shadow under here. So I'm doing a little bit of that dark here, purple. And we can just make a shadow under the eave of the roof here. And there's a shadow over there. Maybe a tiny bit of shadow. Maybe under here there's a little windowsill with a little dark shadow there. And I think that's good. And so you can kind of see how you can see how this is very little water now. See, now we're doing our darks in our painting. We're just using really dark paint, not much water at all. And you can see that, right? There's not much water there. Same thing, reds and oranges for our chimney colors, and we use those for the kind of the mixtures of maybe like the barn siding, and we also had some orange and brown and yellow for our barn siding that we made. But you can see how these are all pretty much mostly paint, not much water at all. And then that is the difference between your darks, which are very little water, mostly just paint with a little bit of a damp brush, and you get it so that it's really a nice thick consistency. And then over here, if you want to do your sky wash, well, then you're going to have lots of water, right? And not as much paint. So that's the difference between the darks and the lights when you're creating your paintings. I know you're going to really enjoy this video, and you're going to have a great time and have fun creating a couple swatches. Maybe you're going to do a few more of your own that you can create. Maybe a boat with a seascape scene, or a lighthouse, or you can just make little swatches like this and have fun mixing different colors, and get used to that idea of mixing for your sky washes or very light washes that you might want a light, very, very light bit of paint. You're adding lots of water and just a little bit of paint. And then when you want darker passages in your painting, when you're doing things like maybe a cabin or a house or a building or a boat or a figure or whatever you're going to paint, you're going to be adding those colors from your palette, but you're going to have very little water. So you can see there's very little water when I'm doing these mixes for the darker darks. So you just have to recall that when you're doing any kind of wash on your watercolor paper, you just ask yourself the question, is this going to be like a dark or a light? And if it's a light, you have no problem. You're just adding a little bit of water, or mostly water, a little bit of paint. And then if you're going to do a darker dark, you're going to be more checking off water on a sponge or your tissue, and you're going to make sure there's no puddles of water in your palette. You want your palette to be, a little bit damp. You have a spritzer bottle, but you don't want too much water flooding in your palette. And then you can just mix your darks over here. And if you have a problem, let's say you want to mix a dark, and you say, oh, I want to mix a dark over here, and all of a sudden you go like that, uh-oh, that's because we have leftover, so that's leftover water from our lighter wash. That can throw us off too. So let's not get thrown off on that. That's why we kind of clean up our palette. So once we're done with some lighter washes, let's get those puddles dried up and cleaned off with the paper towel. And then we're back to having a dry palette here, and then we can go in and do a darker dark like that with just the rich paint, to make a dark. You can do some dark, some reds. So you can do some high intensity colors, and those colors won't get watered down as long as you keep that palette dry. Once you don't want to leave puddles of water in your palette when you're making darks. Be direct with it and say to yourself, I'm making darks. I got to make sure the palette's dry, no puddles in there, and then you go in and you just pick up your paint and you make sure that you're kind of checking some water off more on your paper towel or tissue or your sponge. If you're using a sponge or your apron, take a little bit of water off your brush first, then get your color, and then you will have the rich, beautiful darks like this, and you won't have an issue and a problem with that, because when I first started watercolor, I had a lot of problems with trying to get these really dark darks in my paintings, and then once I realized, wow, I really got to use hardly any water and just get the paintbrush with the paint on it and get that into my palette to kind of mix my colors, and then from there you take it and you bring it over into your painting, and then you're all set. And then you pretty much, that's really a big part of watercolor, getting really nice tonal values and the real pop that you're looking for in your painting. You want everything to look good and realistic, and that's how you'll do that. So hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to be back soon with another video. And again, I thank you so much for the comments, the great, beautiful words of encouragement, and all the great, interesting, insightful comments about techniques and methods and painting and watercolors. So it's great. I'm glad everyone's really active in the comment section. And again, if you ever have questions, I'm always happy to answer any questions you have in the comment section. And a lot of people learn a lot of great things in the comment section. I know people read a lot of the comments and pick up a lot of good, helpful tips from a lot of you artists out there. You're out there, you're painting a long time already, and you give a lot of great comments in the comment section that really help other artists, so thank you for that. And we'll see you on the next video, okay? Happy painting, everybody.